It's Monday. It is Monday. And I am laughing because I think I was on the Lauren Wireman Facebook page when I was doing the Wildflowers live. So I'm sorry if I caused a little bit of confusion there for you. It's Monday and it's crazy. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that, you guys. All right. I'm just gonna get on here and share my silly escapades of being live on the wrong page. Okay, good morning. I guess I was live on the wrong page this morning earlier. All right. I'm just gonna share this. Sorry guys, I'm just sharing real quick on my iPad. I'm so excited for today's live. Oops, not that excited. I don't want to talk in all caps. To start is cool. Oh. Okay. Yeah, sorry you guys. I didn't realize I was live on the Lauren Wireman page by accident. And I thought I was on the Wildflowers page. It's Monday. Okay, are you ready? I'm so excited. All right. Okay, this Facebook Live is going to be all about what it takes to start a nail school. So I am going to walk you through like everything that I can possibly walk you through on starting a nail school. I think some of you might be a little bit surprised to see and to find out, what exactly it takes to do that. You can work from my computer or you can set up the new computer. All right, so here we go. I'll tell you just a quick little history. I'm Lauren Wireman. I'm the creator of Wildflowers Nails. Some of you guys have known me for a zillion years. Some of you are maybe just seeing me for the first time and you're like, who's that crazy girl? It's me. I am so passionate about the nail industry. I am so passionate about nail education, especially because there is a big gaping hole in our industry when it comes to education. And, it's one of those things where it's like, how do you fix it? Like one person can't fix it. But I think there's not a lot of education on how to start a nail school. And there's such a great need for nail schools that are run by passionate nail techs. And so I'm just going to do everything that I can to share with you, what it takes to get together a school. And it is going to vary from state to state, but a lot of things are the same, regardless of what state you're in. It really doesn't matter because of federal financial aid. So the mark or the waterline across the country to qualify your program for federal financial aid is 600 hours. So right away, that's going to divide certain states that are under 600 hours for their requirements obviously are not going to qualify for federal financial aid with a nail program. Now, there are ways to change that. There are ways around it. It involves you a lot of times having to petition your state, your Board of Education in your state, or whoever the governing body is that oversees independent educational facilities in your state. So in my state, it's the state of Florida, it's the Department of Education, and within the Department of Education, it's the Commission for Independent Education. And they are the ones that oversee all of the schools, all of the private institutions, there's schools other than just nail schools. There's schools for barbering. There's ministry schools. I actually went to like a Bible college in Pennsylvania. So there are all kinds of schools out there. And so for Florida, that's governed by the Commission for Independent Education, which is a section of the Florida Department of Education. It really doesn't have anything to do with the Board of Cosmetology. When I first started trying to get a school together, I was like, oh my gosh, like the Board of Cosmetology, the Board of Cosmetology. And the Board of Cosmetology just kept telling me, you need to talk to the Florida Department of Education, the Florida Department of Education. And I'm like, why? Like, I didn't understand. So, most of the regulations, if you're trying to get a school together, at that 600-hour mark, which if I were any of you in a state with less than 600 hours for your nail program, I would try to shoot for the standards for the 600-hour program anyway. And I'll tell you a little bit of like the nitty-gritty of what exactly that means and what the differences are in having a 600-hour program that would qualify for federal financial aid versus having a program that's going to be under 600 hours where people are just going to have to be self-pay. Like that's literally the only option. So just to make things clear, if your program is 600 hours, you can eventually, you can't do it right away. You can't just pop open your school and qualify for federal financial aid. That's not how it works. But eventually, once your school is open and up and running for roughly 2 years, you can apply for accreditation, at which point the accrediting people are like the gateway to getting federal financial aid. So the only way that you can really get federal financial aid for your nail school is to go through the gateway of an accreditation agency. And so this is where we get into the politics of schools. And I mean, there's a lot of politics when it comes to schools. And, I've seen schools that are trying to meet the accreditation requirements. So the accreditation board comes in and they give you an extra set of hoops to jump through as a school to make sure that you're truly deserving of getting federal financial aid for your students. When your school gets to the point where you can get federal financial aid for your students, it almost becomes like a cash cow. And it's like it's very sad, but it becomes almost like a cash cow, and the schools end up doing the bare minimum because that's all they have to do. The school doesn't, this is hence the problem that we have. Whether a school is accredited, whether a school isn't accredited, we have the same problem. The standards in the state are really low. All the school has to do to keep its like upstanding reputation is just meet the minimum standards and keep their accreditation status. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that happen for schools to keep their accreditation status. I could tell you stories, but I won't, but I'm just saying they were so adamant about attendance and retention at a school I once worked at that we did not have our 15-minute breaks. We had to spend our 15-minute breaks calling all the absent students. It was just crazy. It was crazy. We had to literally hunt down and stalk these students to keep them in school, because if we couldn't keep a certain number of students in school, we would lose our accreditation as a school. So, it just becomes messy. Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to walk you through the fun stuff, and I'm just going to go. So I just want to show you guys. This is my application for the school. I'm waiting for one paper to send it off, but this literally is the application that I have to send in to the Commission for Independent Education. So it is not some little thing that you do online. It is a great big pile of paper here. And I'm just going to walk you through. What's so great about the state of Florida is on their website, they literally have this whole thing laid out for you. Morning, Miss Betty. And Miss Betty has been so helpful to me for getting my school together. So helpful. All right. So the first thing that I have to do is apply. So this is the little thing, and it just says here's what my school name is going to be. And here's my name, here's my information for my application. So that one's an easy one. There are actually 24 documents to apply for a school in the state of Florida. So I'm just gonna walk you right through this because it's very interesting. The next thing that I have is the actual document checklist. So this is where we have all of the 24 things that we have to have checked off the list to be able to submit the application. Oh, looks like I took some notes on the back of that one. Oh well. But this is what you need. So the next thing on the list is they want Secretary of State documentation. So that means I had to go onto the state of Florida's business website and register as a business. Yes, I will not have the doors open to my school for at least 6 months, but you have to pay and you have to register it as a business. So I have a number with the state of Florida, and I also have a number with the IRS, which is my EIN number. It's your employer identification number. And that is the number to make sure that you are, it's kind of like a social security number for your business, if that makes sense. So it's really easy to register for these two things. It's probably the easiest part of the entire application right here. Next on the list. So the next thing I had to do was personnel, I don't even know. I had to fill out these forms to say like who my staff was gonna be. So we're just having a small little school, so there's literally 2 of us. And so I had to do mine. And in the state of Florida, you don't need an instructor's license to teach. You need like 3 years of experience in the field that you're teaching, as like literally the requirement to teach in the state of Florida. So no instructor's license here. If it was another state, I'm sure you would have to have the instructor license on this form to show that the person, you know, has an instructor's license. But mine has literally all of my educational background, all of my work experience in the industry, my cosmetology license, and then I had to get it notarized from a notary. So any staff members that you're gonna have working at your school, you have to provide that information. Then there's this fee for $50. For what? I don't know. You just have to pay a bunch of fees. I think it's so they can do a criminal background check on me. So I had to pay them $50, even though I just had literally 5 criminal background checks for adopting. This is the year of paperwork. 2020 is officially, I declared the year of paperwork. And I have done so many background checks. It's blood work, physicals. You think that we could just like, you know, bundle that together and send them the results, because I just had like FBI background check, Pennsylvania background check, Florida background check, Ohio background check. But no, they want to do their own background check for $50. Whatever. So there's another, but the government's going to be like, what is with this lady? Why do people keep doing background checks on her? So here's my $50 that I paid, because you have to send them a check. An organizational chart of the school. What's an organizational chart? So an organizational chart, if you're going to have like a great big school, which, hey, I mean, you might inherit a bunch of money, you want to start a great big school, whatever. Your organizational chart is usually like the CEO at the top, and then there's like a, you know, campus manager. And then under the campus manager, maybe you have 2 campuses. You've got your campus manager, and then under the campus manager, you're going to have you'll have like 2 program managers, like a night program manager and a day program manager. And then underneath the program managers are going to be your instructors. So it's kind of like, what do they call those charts? Like a flow chart sort of people. Mine is very simple. It's like me, and then an instructor, and then another like part-time instructor. So that's pretty much it. I kind of giggled when I had to make my organizational chart. All right, next thing you have to do is a program outline, and this is for diploma programs. So my program is going to be a diploma program because we're in the state of Florida, and when you go to nail school, you get a diploma. And so then you use that diploma to be able to apply to take your licensing test with the state, if you even need to do that. In the state of Florida, we don't even have a licensing test for a nail tech. So I literally give them a diploma. That diploma says, yes, they attended school for 240 hours. Yes, they did satisfactory in everything that they needed to do. They have to take like an HIV/AIDS test, and then they get their license just like that. So they don't have to even really be like good at nails. I mean, at my school, it might be a little different. I'm gonna give them a hard time if they're not, and make sure, because really at the end of the day, I want people to be able to graduate the school and actually do nails and actually make money and actually like make a living out of it. Whereas with other schools, all they really care about is getting that person their license, and then it's like, bye. Now, if it's an accredited school, they're worried about you getting hired somewhere, because that's part of the accreditation. They have to maintain a certain standard of people getting hired after they finish the program. So yeah, interesting stuff. So the program outline, I have actually 2 programs at my school that I'll be doing. One is the Nail Specialist 12, which is a 12-week program. The other one is Nail Specialist 24, which is a 24-week program. And you can design your programs however you want to design them. My programs both have the same thing in them. So this is where you list out, like in the state of Florida, we have to have 240 hours, okay, of education. Theory hours have to be 100, and lab hours, which is them actually doing nails, has to be 140. And that's something that is dictated to us by the Board of Cosmetology for our state. And then within those hours where they're saying, okay, 100 have to be theory and 140 have to be like lab hours, which is like hands-on work. Then within there, they say, here's how many services. Again, this is coming from the Board of Cosmetology this time. So they have to do, and these are the services required for the state of Florida. This information can be found for your state wherever you live, okay? They have to do 20 manicures, 10 pedicures, 5 removals, 10 polishing, 15 tip with overlay. And so it doesn't matter what product they use. They could use gel, they could use build in a bottle, they could use acrylic, they could use polygel. It doesn't matter in my state. Woo, woo. That's one thing I love about Florida, is we don't have to even teach with acrylic. It's pretty amazing. Sculptured nails, again, 15. Don't care what you use to do them. Just have to do 15 sets of sculptured nails. Repairs, 10. Fills, 10. That's literally all the services required to get your nail license in the state of Florida. Then for theory, they have some requirements that they're saying, okay, you have to teach at least 5 hours of Florida cosmetology laws and rules. You have to teach at least 4 hours on HIV and AIDS. And there's maybe like 1 or 2 other things, but then within that, we get to choose, what we want to teach as far as theory, which is nice. So we have some freedom. I definitely put like a big segment in there about electric file, 12 and a half hours at electric file in my program. I don't know about your program, but in my program, we can learn the e-file. Then inventory of equipment. So this actually outlines everything that's going to come in the student kit. So this is where you have to like pull out your budget and figure out what you can afford to get in the kit for what they're paying for the kit. And it's nice to own a product company because I get a little bit more bang for my buck, just a little bit more bang for my buck. And then what textbook I'm going to use. It's easiest, honestly, to just use an already existing textbook to get your school open. And then if you want to write your own textbook or your own curriculum, you can do that. It's a little tricky, but you can do that. So I had to basically create the same thing for both programs. Now, this one is really where it starts to get to where you're going to want to probably involve a lawyer. And this is the enrollment agreement. The enrollment agreement is actually a legal document between you and the student that is enrolling in your program. So you have 2 like big documents. One big document is your program catalog, which literally this is like the student handbook, it like student conduct, dress code, calendar, holidays, what to do if you decide you want to drop out of school, like what you want to do if you want to transfer your credits, who owns the school, is the school accredited? So it's this big, huge catalog that gives you all of that information. The enrollment agreement is the actual like legal document that if you ended up having to go to court with a student for whatever reason, it's not the the catalog that stands in court, it's the actual enrollment agreement. So this is where it is wise to have an attorney look over this to make sure that you have all of your legal jargon, etc., done right. So I'm just going to walk you through this enrollment agreement just to tell you what exactly, oops, in the world. I think I got an extra page here. Well, this is good that I'm looking through this before the state gets it. All right, 7. It is 11 pages. I'm not going to like walk you through it and make you fall asleep, but I am going to just walk you through what has to be in your enrollment agreement. And the state of Florida is nice enough to outline all of this for you right on their website, which is really so great. So, for the enrollment agreement, what you have to have is sort of a list of program and a list of fees. You have to clearly state what the tuition is, like total, like, so the tuition is going to be like $5,000 or whatever. And then you have to say which means the tuition is like $20 a credit hour or whatever. So you have to break it down. So in Florida, because it's 240 hours, you would take your total tuition, you would divide it by 240, and that's roughly what it would cost per credit hour. And that's something that has to be set up front. So our public schools that are like state funded, by the county, like the county has these schools for cosmetology. They are extremely low budget because they are just like county schools. I believe they're like $2.75 per credit hour. I mean, it's like nothing, but they don't have a nail program. The only program they offer is cosmetology because they be trying to get that state funding. So anyway, you have to put your admissions fees because somebody has to do all of this paperwork and enrollment paperwork, and somebody has to do the admissions process, which is a whole nother, ball of yarn, which I'll get into in just a little bit. They have to know, like, if they can't complete their 240 hours, what's going to happen. If you're going into a payment plan, here's when you pay, here's the consequence if you don't pay on time. So all of these, like, it's not like you can just say, oh, I'm gonna have a school, and then like figure out all the details later. You literally have to have every situation, every scenario, everything completely worked out before you even submit the stuff to the state. Like, they want everything figured out beforehand so that as you're operating your school, you already have a policy in place for anything that might happen. Cancellation and refund policy, and your refund policy and your cancellation policy has to be in line with, I forget what the actual state code is, but there's a code in every state it's like a Fair Consumer Act or something like that. And so whatever you make for your refund policy or your cancellation policy, in the state of Florida, the way it is once they hit 40% of the program, it's completely like, that's it. They owe the full tuition when they hit 40%. It's different in every state, but I do know Florida is 40%. So that means, and this all has to be explained to the student before they like sign on the dotted line. This means that for 240 hours, it's somewhere around the 100-hour mark. So you have to make sure the student understands, like, once you're in this for 100 hours, you owe the full tuition, even if you decide to drop out at like 110 hours. It doesn't matter. You're going to owe the whole tuition for the school. And so will the school chase you down? The school might hand it off to a collections agency. It just kind of depends. Holidays, you have to list out all of the holidays where the school will be closed. We have to have a policy for inclement weather, especially here because we do have hurricanes and crazy things that happen. School hours, and then we have the general terms of the agreement. So this is all of the like legal jargon, the student and the school. Like, the school is Laurendale Academy, and the student is the student, and the school, blah, 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 and the student, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, all of that legal jargon in there, and then everybody has to sign it. The student has to sign it. If the student's under 18, their parents have to sign it. School director has to sign it, admissions representative has to also sign it. Then we also have a page in here for their plan, which is just a very black and white, you are enrolling in this program and you need to attend class on these days for the hours of XYZ. Your start date is whatever, your end date is whatever, and you do realize that if you decide to be absent a lot, you're gonna have to pay for those hours and hours that you have to make up. It's not just included in your tuition. Once you get over a certain amount of absences, you're gonna have to pay per credit hour to make up that time. And so the students have to understand that. Failure to make payments, and then the academic calendar. And then this academic calendar also has to have listed the start date and the end date for every, for the next 2 years. That was fun to make. All right. Sure, there's some Excel program that'll do it automatically. I just was like, whatever, let me just do it. I want to get it done. All right. So there is a checklist that the state of Florida was kind enough to provide that literally walks you through all of those things that I just told you. All of the, it's 6E-1.0032 is the subsection of these governing policies that talk about, fair consumer agreements and all that kind of stuff. So refund policy checklist, you literally there's a whole checklist for the refund policy that's provided by the state of Florida. So nice. They want a balance sheet. A balance of what? I don't know. There's no money yet, but whatever. Then they wanted a financial checklist. So this one was really interesting, and I actually enjoyed doing this a lot. You have to do a business plan, and you can't just write up your own business plan. The state of Florida actually provides you with a form for the business plan, and just to walk you through that, because it honestly, doing a business plan sounds like such a boring adult thing to do, but doing a business plan is really smart, and it will really show you, which I've had this business plan for 10 years. So it literally took me a half hour to do the whole business plan, because I was like, oh my gosh, you could stand me up in front of a court and I could spout off these answers, because that's how long this has been stirring inside of me. So just to walk you quickly through the business plan, handwritten forms are not accepted, just a FYI. The executive summary, you have to describe the institution's objective. So our objective is to provide superior nail education to those seeking licensure as a nail specialist within the state of Florida. We will be a school focused only on nails, as this is a skill and trade that is in high demand. So you have to kind of word this in a way that sounds kind of like, I'm a business person, not a nail tech, which it's kind of fun. It's like acting. All right, so the mission. What are the keys to success for your school? It's oh my gosh, yeah, I've known all this stuff forever. I'm just saying it and telling you, and location, tell us about the facility, tell us about the market analysis, who's your target market, who is your competition, describe your competition's pricing. I'm yeah, it's $2.80 down the road, mine's gonna be 20. Well, not exactly, but close. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your biggest threats. Here was my biggest threat. I was well, deregulation in the state of Florida would definitely be a threat, because they're always threatening to deregulate. I'm yeah, if you do that, then what the heck, I'll do what I can, but my goodness. Describe the institution's marketing strategy. So this was really fun. So I had to describe how I'm going to market the school, describe the enrollment strategy. What's your website plan? How about accreditation? And I'm on you, because I can't even get accredited because our program's hours are so low. If it wasn't so low, I would try to get accredited. But you just can't. They won't accredit a program under 600 hours. So the only way, if I wanted to get to the 600 hour mark in the state of Florida, I would have to add a skincare program. I'd have to run this thing for 2 years, and then I would have to go stack the programs together to get the 600 hour mark. The other option, and I've been strategizing for 10 years about this with my state and talking to the people at the state. They were run your school for a year, add a 400 hour program, Prove that people will actually sign up and pay out of pocket for your 400-hour program. Run that for like 2 years, and then come back to the state, and then you can petition the Commission for Independent Education to see if they'll approve a 600-hour nail program. But they're gonna be like, oh my God, that's so extra. Like, ugh, why do you need 600 hours? Like, look at all these other people doing it at 240. And I'm be like, yeah, and look at all the people getting their freaking toes amputated. Ugh. All right. Capital, equipment, and supplies, your financial plan. So just, oh, and then like if you have to shut down, what's your plan for Are you going to try to teach people out, meaning like stop enrolling new people and continue to teach the people that are enrolled? So yeah, that was my favorite part. All right. Faculty members, there's a list of the faculty members. Oh, and here is, it's like a big floppy fish, the school catalog. Oh, so fancy. So this is the one that has like student conduct. This took me a lot of hours, a lot of hours, and a lot of short nails because I was doing 33 pages of typing. I typed this whole thing myself. Betty from IBA was kind enough to let me see some of her enrollment and stuff for her school to just kind of take a look at it. You know, hers is for South Carolina, mine's for Florida. So there are a lot of differences, but Florida, I'm telling you, Florida, one thing that is nice about Florida was Florida really outlines for you what needs to be in your stuff. Probably because so many people are applying for schools and getting turned down. And so the state of Florida, I mean, think about it. This is the Department of Education. So the Department of Education was probably like, shoot, let's educate people on what they need to be able to have a school. And they have done it, and they have done a beautiful job. So if I do have something positive to say in regard to the Florida Department of Education, they have done a fantastic job of educating me on what I need for my school. And hopefully that will stand true in other states as well. That they will, you know, really lay out what you need and give you the resources. They didn't hold my hand through the process by any means. I had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own. I had to do a lot of reading. I had to do a lot of research. But anyway, so this is your program catalog. And again, this has the student policies. This is where I got to make up the dress code. I was like, I can tell everybody they just have to wear blue, like blueberries. Of course, I didn't do that. But I did ask people to like keep their armpits covered up, you know? I just think in the beauty, okay, and it might be because I'm a cosmetologist and I have to like shampoo people and they're like looking up at your like grody armpit. I don't know, there's just something about armpits in my profession. Like you can wear a tank top, but like wear a little sweater or something over it because nobody likes seeing your armpits or your cleavage. All right, leave of absence, tardiness, you know, the school's gonna have surveillance cameras. Here's how many of these services you have to do. This lays out all of the individual courses within the program. You know, so like for example, career opportunities, salon technician. So there's just a lot of, you know, little nitty gritty in there. Sorry, did I freeze up on you? Anyway. Student conduct policy, the academic calendar, you literally do have to go in there and figure out what days are going to be off and what days you're going to be on and calculate that all in as you're figuring out everybody's start and finish date. So you have a whole checklist provided by the state of Florida. Thank you to the state of Florida for providing such a lovely checklist because they're like, we don't even want you to send this stuff unless you get it right. Why do I have so many white papers in here? Glad I'm going through this. So this is actually a 6 page checklist of all the stuff that's got to be in that course catalog. Next, a sample advertisement. I just printed it really little in like black and white. So, and then another publication. So I had to make up these like little publications like, oh, come to my school. It's the best, but you can't say that. You can only say that if like the newspaper said you were the best. I'll get into that in a moment. But anyway, little advertisements for your school. I had to show, this was the part that's held me up for 10 years, people, right here. You have to literally have a signed lease agreement to be able to apply for your school. Thankfully, I was able to do a little negotiating so that I'm not paying the full rate of rent. Because I said to the landlord, like, listen, I really want to be here. This is a wonderful building to have a school in. It's on the bus line. It's close to like the interstate. It's close to like the other busy road. It's on a busy road. It's on the bus line. It's got like a restaurant in here. I mean, it's a safe location. We don't have, for those of you who've been to my headquarters, our old headquarters, we had like drunk people peeing in the parking lot and prostitutes. We don't really have that here at this plaza. So we have a little step up. But we're in such a great location. So I was able to negotiate, get my lease. So I've got the lease here, but I literally am going to have to pay rent for 6 months and just flush it down the toilet because it takes the State Department 6 months to approve your application. So I had to pay all these fees for a provisional license. Just to tell you what they are in the state of Florida. We are a level 1 school, which means we're going to have between 0 and 100 students. Good morning. That is a $500 fee. Then we have a workload fee based on proposed highest programmatic offering. So if the highest offering is a diploma, that would be us, it's a $2,000 fee. If you are offering an occupational associate's degree or higher, it's a $3,000 fee. And then we have the program fees. So it's the number of programs times 200. I have 2 programs, so that's $400. So my total, and then if you want to use the name college or university, you have to add $500 extra dollars. So the fees totaled about $2,900. So that was that, my fancy check. And then we have this other fee, because they got a lot of fees here. This is the Student Protection Fund fee. I'm gonna have to Google what it even is. But you have to pay $500 every year for the Student Protection Fund fee. No idea. So there's that. Okay, here's one that kind of threw me for a loop. So I was almost done with this whole big application and I come across I have to have zoning compliance. Don't have that yet, but it's on the way. That means I have to get some ductwork done over there, HVAC. So like better air conditioning, better ventilation over there. That's really all I have to do over there to that facility to make it work for a school. Admissions training program. So it says pursuant to rule 6E-1.003212. It shall be the responsibility of an institution to provide a training program for all staff who recruit prospective students or who participate in the admissions process. So I was like, okay, so I have to write a training program. But then I was like, how do I do that? You know, like, how do I write a training program? What are the rules and regulations? Are there rules and regulations for admissions in my state? They just really, I feel like they dropped the ball a little on this one. So I was like, wait a minute. So I started doing a little bit of like Google searching and I found that there are some major rules and regulations when it comes to admissions and enrolling students. I mean, major. It's it just opened up a whole new world for me. I was like, oh my goodness. So they're just the same way that your state does continuing education, like CEUs, maybe if you're in a state that does that. They have these little like online, like it's basically an online course where they charge you whatever and you just do it. It's like dumb, right? So ours is 16 hours here in the state for continuing education. And it literally takes me 10 minutes to take the online exam because I've taught the state laws in Florida for so many years. Like I don't need even to refresh. I can go in there and blast through it and score and pass and be done with it. So there's actually the same thing for the school. You have to have anybody involved in admissions or recruiting students go through a 4-hour online course to learn about the rules and regulations for admissions. It's actually called admissions compliance. And there is a course called admissions compliance for post-secondary schools in Florida. So I was like, oh my God, I'm almost done. And then I was just like, what the crap? So then I had to spend 4 hours doing this online course. It was as this was literally the last thing that I needed to do after doing all of this, writing all of this, reading, learning, just everything that I had to do to get this application off to the state. So when I went on there, I was like taking it at the regular pace for an online course, trying to be like really just going through it. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like I know a lot of this because I've learned a lot of this from setting this up. And so what I did was I just blasted through it, of course. I scored 100% on the final exam, which was 50 questions. And I'd like to thank Miss Betty for that. Reason being was because she sent me some of her school information, and I literally have studied it for, the past year, just trying to understand all the different parts of things. And I learned so much. And then from doing my own stuff, when I got to this course, I was like, wow. But there were a couple things that I learned in the course, new things. One of which is like, you can't make claims about your school. Like, you can't be like, oh, our school is the best school around. Like, you can't do that. But if the newspaper writes an article and says your school is the best school around, then it's fine. You can be like, oh, but this, newspaper says that we're best around. So this is why schools try to earn these awards and win these, best school in the city award, because it gives them the right to brag about their school, whereas you really can't brag about your school in that way. So you can basically say we've got some killer instructors, and our instructors have a background in XYZ, and you can say some stuff like that and just state facts. But as far as saying that you have the best school, even if you do have the best school and you know that you have the best school, you still can't just go around being like, oh yeah, my school's the best, because the state says you can't do that stuff. So, let's see, what course did I take? When I went to school, I did cosmetology in the state of Pennsylvania for 1,200 hours. So, yes. So I showed you the business plan. Honestly, you guys, you should do a business plan. You should do a business plan for the business you have right now. I'll get your brain going. And the last thing here is your projected or actual budget for the school. This was also something that was not that easy to complete, but what is cool is, so the state of Florida has this Excel spreadsheet that automatically calculates your tuition revenue. And I'll tell you, I talked to this lady on the phone from the Commission for Independent Education, and she was like, your school won't be able to gross even $100,000 its first year. And I was like, challenge accepted. So anyway, password. Am I unfrozen? Okay, good. I'm unfrozen. I don't know who I just shared the Wi-Fi password with. Was that you? Okay. I was like, oh God. But anyway, so you have to go through, and this is really, it's one of those grown-up things that you have to do that doesn't seem like it's very fun to do, but you need to do it because these are all very real things about running a business. So you're going to have obviously revenue coming in from people's tuition, but you have obviously your books and supplies. You have the supplies for them to do nails besides what you give them in your kit. You have your wages for your full-time instructor, your part-time instructors. You have workers' comp insurance. You have training and development for your staff. So if I wanted to let my instructor help with admissions, she would have to go through that 4-hour training course, which I would have to pay for. It's like $100 or something, but still, it's an expense. It's not, you can't just look at these little things and be like, oh, it's only this much. Oh, it's only that much. This stuff adds up so fast when you run a business. So you cannot just overlook little expenses. Everything counts when you're running a business. So yeah, workers' comp insurance, that's something you have to have. You have to have a library. In the state of Florida, part of your student services is having a library. And it is an absolute requirement in the state of Florida that you have a library at your institution. So that was a little bit interesting. I learned that in the online course. Production, public relations, supplies, telemarketing. We're not going to do any telemarketing. Direct mail, publications, radio, stuff like that. Payroll expenses, accreditation expenses. Now, accreditation expenses, I will tell you, I want to say it's like 12 grand to become accredited. And then I don't know if it's if you pay, an annual fee after that hopefully isn't 12 grand. I mean, that's like a crazy amount. But I know that you have to do you have fees for accreditation month after month after month. So, and then you just have like your office expenses, your copier, your printing, your training and development, your postage, having a telephone, having internet, office supplies, taxes, travel, meals, all of that type of stuff. Like, there's just a lot of stuff. So not only do you have your startup costs and your lease costs, you have just a lot of little expenses. So here's my story, just to like flip over now that my eyes are like burning from this. My story is I wanted to start a nail school. I worked at a school. They had a nail program. They had several programs, and it's really not a bad facility at all. It's a really good facility, but I was not happy with the way that they were treating the nail program at that facility. So that being said, I decided that I was going to venture off and I was going to start a nail school. This is in 2010. So it literally has been 10 years. 2010. I quit working at the school. I left on really good terms. So I stayed on as a sub, and actually they use our student kits now. So we still have a really great relationship with the school. It is a good school. It is a good facility. They have a great instructor in the nail program right now. But back when I was there, I don't know, it was frustrating. We didn't really have a space for the nail program. They were in transition. So I had to test my students in the laundry room. That drove me crazy. The way that they had it set up was like people could come in for nail services right when I was in the middle of trying to like teach. Because like the clinic floor was technically open. So if a nail service came in, it was like we had to take it. And it was like, dude, I'm trying to teach. Like, I can't supervise a student working while I'm trying to teach a lesson. So that was frustrating. And so it was just like a hot mess, and there wasn't really, I don't know, it was frustrating. The students were frustrated, and the students would complain a lot. They paid a lot of money out of pocket back then to go to nail school. And I mean, it was a lot of money that they were paying out of pocket. And I mean, it's just a lot of money. It was like $4,500, to go to nail school. And they felt like they weren't getting, what they should for the amount that they paid. So anyway, I left, and I thought, okay, what do I need to start a school? I need like a unit. Obviously, I'm gonna have to rent a commercial unit. We had done that before for churches, so I was a little bit familiar with renting commercial spaces. And so I thought, okay, like I should probably be able to find a space, like a small space for like $1,000 a month or something, commercial. Like here in this area, it's not expensive to rent commercial space at all. So, I mean, compared to the rest of the United States. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna have like $1,000 a month in my commercial space. Gotta have internet, gotta get like tables and chairs, gotta have like a computer. And I'm just talking like a small nail school. So I started, just trying to figure this out because I had no money. And I thought I'm gonna approach my dad and see if my dad will loan me the money for my business plan, and I didn't know if he would or if he wouldn't. And I wasn't like that worried about it if he said no, but it was like, he said to me, what you need to do is write a business plan. Like if you're going to do this, you need to like do it like a grown up. So I was like, okay, so I had no idea how to write a business plan. None. So you can go to SBA.gov. It's like the Small Business Association.gov. And I'll tell you, like, there are some really good resources out there all across the United States. So SBA.gov is the Small Business Association or whatever it is. And there's actually people locally who will sit down with you. And these are like former business owners, especially here in Florida. Like there's a lot of people who are retired who have come down here and they're just bored. And so they're looking to like help young people, not to help them financially necessarily. But if a young person wants to start a business, they as a former business owner are so happy to sit down with that young person and say, hey, like let's walk through your business plan. Let's hear your business plan, and kind of comb through the whole thing with you. So that's so cool. I wasn't even ready for that yet, but I was like, oh my gosh. So online, I took this whole course on how to write a business plan. It's a completely free course offered by the government. Really cool. So I learned how to write a business plan, and it literally took me like 2 weeks to write the business plan. And after doing all the math, figuring out, what I wanted to put in the kits, what I was going to charge for tuition, what my rent was going to be, my expenses, all that stuff, which my dad has had me budgeting since I was like probably 8. So like I've known how to budget since I was 8 years old. So I came up with all that and I realized I needed like 20 grand. I think that if you're in a not crazy metropolitan area, like if you're not in New York, if you're not in LA, if you're not in some crazy mad expensive city, if you're in kind of any town USA, I would say 20 grand is probably a good number that you would need to save up to get a school started. And I'm sure you could do it for less than that. I'm sure you could do it for more than that. Like if you want to get a facility and build it out and make it look like the Taj Mahal, I'm not into that. I'll tell you, when I first started doing nails, I had a client sit down and she was a business coach and she just like happened to fall into my chair somehow. And she said, I'll tell you something if I could give you a little bit of business advice just for free. She said to me, the biggest mistake that she sees in the beauty industry is people, take out either credit cards or loans from their grandma or their inheritance or whatever, and they will literally spend like between $50,000 and $100,000 doing a build out on a building to make it look like so posh and beautiful and all this stuff. And she said, and then you're in debt. You're in debt up to your eyeballs, and it takes you forever to start making money as a business because you're literally just making the money to pay the debt, to pay the debt, to pay the debt. And the debt, of course, is going to have interest 9 times out of 10. So you've got all this money and you're literally just paying a debt, paying a debt, paying a debt. She said, the best thing that you can do when you're starting a new business is to especially like if you're trying to transition from, say, a nail tech to a nail school, which is what I was trying to do at the time. Talk about it a lot. Talk about it with every client that you have. When I would talk to my clients about it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. I can still, do your nails as like demonstration. Like I wasn't trying to scare them away, but I was just saying like, and won't it be so much better for this area to have me training like nail techs and releasing them into the wild, you know what I mean? Like in this area, and really like, I don't know. I like people who are honest and who are upfront. When someone works for me and they have dreams and aspirations bigger than just working for Wildflowers, I never hold that against them ever. And I feel like your clients really shouldn't hold that against you either. If your dream is to really have a nail school and start doing education, you should be able to share that with your clients. And so anyway, I had, she said, share it with your clients, because when you do that, what it does is it creates almost like a team of people who are just cheering you on. And one day when you do get your place, even if it's ugly and the walls aren't, don't have beautiful wallpaper, and you have, some chair that doesn't match the table, and, it just Frankenstein together type of place at the beginning, they won't care. They will walk in there and they will be so excited for you, and they will be your biggest supporters, and they will be the ones referring people to you and telling everybody about your place. And yes, people might come and they might not be impressed by the way it looks, but the heart of what's inside of it, the quality of education coming out of it, is going to build a reputation, and you are going to start profiting very quickly from it. And then with all those profits, you can choose to upgrade all of your decor. And it makes a lot more sense to approach business that way than it does to spend all of that money up front and then be in debt for your first few years of operating as a business. So that was probably one of the most valuable things, because I was literally that week ready to go and like open a $10,000 credit card and just like go to IKEA and go shopping. And after she said that to me, I didn't. I was like, no, not going to do it that way. I'm going to try to just see what I have and work with what I have, and spend as little money as I can. Obviously, I mean, a coat of paint is not that expensive. You can get a bucket of paint that will paint a 1,000 square foot unit for under like $100, including your paint rollers and supplies, and you can just spend a day. It literally will take you a day and a stepladder, and you can paint the unit yourself. You don't have to hire someone and pay them to paint your unit. So you're gonna have to put in a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of stuff like that. You might have to call on some of your clients or some of your clients' husbands and say, hey, can you help me out with this, or can you help me out with that? Maybe one of your clients does photography. Hey, can you help me? Maybe it's just cool what happens when you sort of work together to pull things off. But I think I could have made it happen probably with like 15,000 or 12,000 if I really was being like as frugal as I could, but yet still putting like forward a very good, clean presentation. I think the most important thing when you're having a school or a salon is cleanliness. So the place should look clean. And again, it might take you laying a floor for $1,000 and painting the walls yourself. And when I say like laying a floor for $1,000, I'm talking about laying it yourself. Over a weekend, it's not rocket science to put like a peel and stick, floor down. But having the place look clean, giving it a fresh coat of paint and a floor is going to cost you maybe $1,200. And the place will feel fresh, the place will feel clean, replacing any ceiling tiles that might be stained or icky looking, but you're gonna have a nice clean place. And just deep cleaning, deep cleaning the bathroom, making sure everything like is nice and clean looking, and then getting some, salon equipment in there. But like IKEA sells those tables for like what? $40? I forget what they're called, where you just screw the legs on and they're white and they're beautiful and they look very clean. The most expensive thing that you'll buy are chairs, like chairs, like these kind of chairs, Chairs are expensive. And, you have to watch because the students will spill stuff on them, so be prepared to have your chairs destroyed. I would recommend, you can get like task chairs for like, 30 or 40 bucks at Walmart if you just want to start off with something. Churches a lot of times will sell their chairs, but they don't have like wheels on the bottom. They're just regular chairs, but you can get those for, rather inexpensive, maybe $20 a chair if you're going to buy like 20 of them. So chairs are quite an expense. You can order stuff like you're now bulk shopping at this point because you have a school. So you can set up accounts with, I know Wildflowers, we will set you up. If you have a school, we will set you up with a school account, and you get great discounts on all of our kits and all of our products for your school. So that's something that we offer. I think there's probably a lot of companies out there that will offer something similar to you. You can get an account with Burmax, Mariana. There's some of the school suppliers. I'm trying not to say like bad things about companies, but they have an array of things that they supply to schools, some of which are very low end and some are higher end. So I'll leave it at that. I'm like, that's where all the crap comes from that people get in their kits, like the plastic fingers. You can shop yourself on Amazon. You can go on AliExpress. This stuff is coming from China. I think we've all established that for certain things. Nail tips, just to practice tips. They're coming from China. You might as well just buy them direct at that point, rather than paying like a middleman for certain things like that. When it comes to products, obviously you don't want to compromise, but even nail lamps, most of the nail lamps are coming from China. And it's up to you based on what products you're using at your school. If you're using like a high-end product line that has a lamp that goes with it, I would definitely recommend using the lamp that goes with your product. But it just kind of all depends on what you have to offer. You might want to go back to like UV lamps, because you might be doing mostly like acrylic and basic gel polish, and so UV lamps might be the way to go for you. There's a lot of things to think about. The school can supply some of the stuff. Some of the stuff can go in the student kits. Some of the stuff the student might have to be responsible for getting themselves. I'm going to have e-files that I have here at the school for students to use, because I don't want to put that as part of their kit because it just makes the kit go up so expensive. But yes, I realize that I run the risk of having the students like drop the hand pieces and, you know, all of that stuff. So I'm going to see if we can actually get trained to service the hand pieces ourselves. This is through Erica, by the way. Erica's ATA. I think if you become a distributor of the e-files, which it would make sense for us to do at that point if we're having a school, I think that she will train you to service the e-file. So we you know, there's just all these things to think through when you're doing this. So I'm just reading your comment real quick, Heather. Oh, good. Good. Heather says she's opening a school. Hopefully it's like a goal. Yeah, it's, I'm trying to think of how long this has taken me. It's been like my lifelong dream, really, to have a school. So I started, you know, I wrote that business plan for my dad, you know, to borrow the money. And then my dad said no, which was fine. My dad's the type of person that, like, sometimes he says yes and sometimes he says no. And it's like, you know, it's fine. And by him saying no, it pushed me to figure out a way. And so we started with like the silicone tools and then the glitter, and then chrome happened, and then I had a whole product company, and now we have more than enough to get a school started. And so this is great. And I'm still only spending my small budget because I'm not gonna like turn it into the freaking Taj Mahal. It doesn't make any sense. It's a nail school. I mean, see how these students are. They just like, yeah, raised like a pack of wolves. Anyway, but yes, very exciting. If there's any questions I can answer to help. So anyway, this has to go off. I've already mailed my checks off. I'm waiting for a PFS, which is a personal financial statement from my accountant, because it's a new institution and there's no financial history for it. I have to provide a PFS. So I should have that today. And this will all go off in the mail today to the Florida Department of Education. Oh, Melissa, that's awesome. I'm so glad. I thought I'm going to go on here and do this. I don't know if it's going to help a lot of people or not, but it sounds like there's actually quite a few of you. Listen, you guys, we need schools so bad. Like, everywhere. We need schools across this country. We need schools that are run by passionate nail professionals who really care about the students, about teaching the students what they really need to be able to succeed and survive out in the nail industry. And so, you know, if this is your dream and teaching is your passion, you can do it. It is attainable. It doesn't cost a fortune. $20,000 is a lot of money. It definitely is. And like for me, I think over 5,000 of it goes to like the state. Well, I had to pay $2,900 plus $500 plus $50. So it was like $3,250 or something like that went to the state. And then I basically have to throw away rent next door for 6 months. So I say rent, it's like a reduced rent. But Andrea, I think you can. I think you might have to have a designated classroom. You just have to check with Connecticut. But, oh, okay, let me talk to you just for a minute about the way like buildings work. So for here, the state just wants to make sure that you are zoned for a nail school. So it's like a post-secondary education facility, basically. So your local, whoever does zoning locally for you is going to be the one that says, okay, you have to have this many exits and this many parking spots and this many, this, that, and the other. So there's like layers of regulation required. So we have like, you know, our local regulations. We have state regulations that are from like the state of Florida Department of Education, like this is something that we require of any post-secondary education facility. Then you have regulations from the Board of Cosmetology for anywhere that's practicing, you know, any type of cosmetology. So you just have to kind of check with your state, figure out who it is at your state level that you need to talk to and ask these questions of. That's my best advice. I will say this, we had talked about moving to Kentucky at one point, me and my husband, and excuse me. So of course I was like, if we move to Kentucky, I'm just starting a school. Like I'm not fooling around doing nails. I'm just going to straight up start a school in Kentucky. They don't have like nail only schools in Kentucky. What they have are cosmetology schools. But you see, it's all technicalities. So you technically have to have a cosmetology school, but for your program, so remember how I told you, like, I have 2 programs. One is like nail specialist 12 and the other one is nail specialist 24. Your cosmetology school can have only a nail program, if that makes sense. So just because you're a cosmetology school doesn't mean that you actually have to have a cosmetology program in your state. And that's something you want to check out. Then from there, they have certain requirements for anybody who's going to be in any type of management at the school. So there you have to have held a Kentucky cosmetology license or nail technician license for at least 5 years. So I said to them, so what you're telling me is I'm going to have to move to Kentucky and just sit there for 5 years when I've had a license for 20 years. I mean, I've had a license literally since the year 2000. I've had a Pennsylvania license. I've had a Florida license. Like, I've been a professional in this industry for 20 years, and you're telling me if I move to your state, I'm gonna have to sit there for 5 years and just like do nothing but just have my Kentucky license before I can open a school. And she said, no, not necessarily. She said, whenever you open a school, you have to, it's through their Department of Education in Kentucky as well. So you actually get a chance to speak to the judge or the counsel or whoever it is. And she said, you can totally explain yourself at that time, and they will more than likely make an allowance for you, based on your experience. So don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged if you're trying to open a school. It just takes talking to the right people. And that doesn't always happen the first time. Sometimes you might have to call twice. I will tell you, I called the Florida Department of Education like probably 7 times over the last 10 years asking them about the rent. Because the rent thing really I'm like, so I have to pay rent on a place for 6 months with no way to recoup for the expense of the rent. Because you literally can't advertise your school. You can't do anything in regard to your school until you have your application for your provisional license approved. So I'm just like, so I have to pay rent and flush it down the toilet. And the lady was like, yes. And I was like, gosh, this sucks. Like, this is dumb. I mean, help people out. We're trying to start businesses that better the community. Like, why you got to do that? So I talked to, I think it was probably like the 7th person I talked to over the 10 years. I talked to him and I said, so just to make sure, I have to sign a lease and I have to pay rent for 6 months just while I wait for you guys. And he's like, yeah, but he said there's ways around that. And he started explaining to me, he's like, you could, see if you can get the landlord to somehow like hold the unit for you or sign like a preemptive lease or do like CAM only instead of like the full cost of rent, or, he's like, there's ways around it to like save the place for you and have an actual lease without you paying the full amount of rent. And I was like, God bless you. I was like, can I get your name? Do you have a direct number? Like, this is fantastic. And he was like, no. But he said, when your application comes in, someone will be assigned to it and you'll work directly with someone from the Department of Education to like get your application all the way through. So anyway, but sometimes it just takes talking to the right person. So don't give up. Don't get discouraged. There's usually ways, to do this. So I just encourage you guys. I would love nothing more than to see a boom of schools all across this country, opened by professional nail technicians that really, truly, like I said, are putting the students' needs first. And wow, Michigan wants you to get students before they even approve you. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, every state's just a little bit backwards and a little bit different. But I think that you just have to have a little bit of patience. But there's ways to make it happen. And the more of us that pop open schools like this, the better it's going to be for the nail industry altogether. Are schools really that lucrative? They can be. It just depends on the way you have it set up. Depends on, like, for us, I mean, we're offering our school during like very specific hours because it's my school and I get to make that call and make that choice of how complicated or how simple I want it to be. And I just kind of want it to be simple. because I'm in that phase of my life where I'm like, I am over like complicated things. I'm trying to just keep it simple. If I was to add like a night program and, you know, have like 4 or 5 different programs for people to be able to like come into, you know, and all sorts of payment plans and stuff like that. If I was to pair it with a skincare program, forget it. We would be, if I was to turn this into a cosmetology school, Betty did that. I always remember Betty telling me her story about how she opened her nail school and it was so successful. Everybody begged her to open a cosmetology school and turn it into a Cosmo school. The minute I turn this into a cosmetology school or add a skincare program, we suddenly will be able to qualify for federal financial aid. We'll have to have been open for 2 years and have to go through an accrediting agency, which, you know, after adopting a bunch of kids and like, you know, buying houses and doing all this paperwork, I'm like, I'm not scared of any paperwork now. But, you know, you have to jump through the hoops. But once you do, I mean, this place would be exploding. It would be exploding. I just don't want that, to be honest. I want to be able to like really stay focused on nails and give nail techs the education that they deserve. And by adding other programs, I feel like it's just going to kind of take away from, you know, the attention that there's no school around here that just does nails. I mean, there might be like 1 or 2, but nobody really knows who they are. I don't even know if they're still open. I tried to like Google search them, so I had to answer that question on the business plan about what they charge for tuition, and I couldn't even like find any information on them. So, you know, I'm just trying to keep it small. For us, our break even as far as the budget's concerned, which break even means being able to pay your staff, being able to pay your rent and all your expenses. We have to have 2 students consistently enrolled in here at all times. So we have so what that means is we have a full-time program, which is 4 days a week. And then we have a part-time program that's 2 days a week. So the full-time program is like 1 person. The part-time program is like a half of a person. So that means we have to have like 4 part-time students in here at all times, or we have to have 2 full-time students in here at all times, or we have to have 1 full-time and 2 part-time students. That's going to equal 2. It's like 2 units basically. We have to have 2 full-time units going on in here at one time. So 2 full-time students will keep every bill paid, everybody good. We're just running it Monday through Thursday. It is during school hours. That is literally it. This program is for women with kids in school, so that they can come and get their nail education at the same time that their kids are in school. And that's literally how I designed the program. It's to really help like single moms. It's to help women out there who are, you know, maybe they're working as a waitress in the evenings, which can be very lucrative. You know, those evening shifts are definitely the shifts that you want. You know, I don't know, but I wanted to keep it simple. So this is how I have the school set up. So you're either coming to school for 5 hours a day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or you're coming to school 2 days a week. You know, for people who have a lower budget or lower amount of income, they're going to have to do the 2-day-a-week one. But anyway, all we need is 2 people in here, basically 2 people to be able to cover our expenses. I think we'll have more than that. I think we'll have 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 people in here, you know, at once going through the program. So I'm optimistic, and, you know, I don't plan on taking a paycheck from the school. I'm really just wanting to make sure I can pay my teacher. But I'm not going to take a paycheck from it. If we have a great year where we are, you know, exceeding what we need and there's money left over, I get that because I'm the business owner. So, but rather than to like steadily compensate myself, I'm not going to. I'm just going to get money based on, you know, whether the school does well or the school doesn't do well. But my primary objective is making sure that my full-time instructor is paid. I'm an instructor at the school as well. She's the full-time reliable instructor. I'm like the grandma in the situation that just gets to like roll in and roll out whenever I want to, which is exactly what I want it to be. I don't want to be tied down to my school. However, I want to be as involved as I can be at any given time. Sometimes my life gets crazy and I have to travel, and then other times I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, and I want to come be super involved. But I need to have like a steady, stable parent at the school full-time that I'm paying. And then, like I said, I get to be like the crazy aunt or the crazy grandma that just pops in and out like Mary Poppins. So anyway, hopefully you guys learned a lot. I do want to just quickly mention, I do have the Nail Educator Academy. Enrollment closes for that on March 31st. The program starts April 1st. So if you don't know who that is to teach teachers how to teach. Basically, if you want to be a nail educator and you're wanting to go through a program where I literally hold your hand through building classes, building curriculum, A to Z, being able to get yourself out there as an independent nail educator. It doesn't matter what company, it's not brand specific, but that is the enrollment for that closes March 31st. So you can head over to laurenwireman.com if you want to find out more information about that. And I'm gonna get off here. Hopefully this was very helpful for you. I'm gonna try to provide as much help as I can to as many people as I can who are wanting to open schools. The more the merrier. Honestly, you all know how bad we need good schools. I mean, so bad. And I just want like nail techs to know that it's not an unattainable dream by any means. It is less expensive, in my opinion, to open a school than it is a salon. So just remember that. You could probably open a school for less money than you can a salon. It'll take a little bit more time. It'll take a little bit more of a time investment to get a school open than a salon. But all right, you guys, I love you. See you soon. Bye.